What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York, back in the quarantine zone, and on the phone, we got Kadeem from Loathe. Thank you so much for your time today, man. I really appreciate it.
No worries, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're all safe out there in Liverpool, where you guys are from?
Yeah, safe and sound. Just staying indoors, Just trying to keep myself occupied, being creative and stuff. But yeah,
it's definitely a good time for creativity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, first thing is always first. Your newest album, I Let It In and It Took Everything, is, again, a phenomenal album that I really enjoyed. I'm just curious to what, the thought process was going into the making of this record. Was there a preconceived idea? Was there, a lot of improvising involved?
Not really so much like a preconceived idea. It was more just, one of the first times that we've ever, went into an album being, totally open-minded with how we want to create and just kind of, not letting the pressure of the outside world affect our creativeness, because obviously a lot had happened since we released The Cold Sun, and there was a lot of expectation and stuff for a second album, and we just really didn't want to get stuck in the mindset of overthinking every decision that we make musically to please others. So it was one of the first times that we not to say we haven't been true to ourselves in the past, but we just tried our best to be true to what we wanted to create, as opposed to what others wanted us to do,
Mm-hmm. So was you guys didn't just go into this trying to make a direct follow-up to The Cold Sun. You kind of wanted this to be a new start for Loathe in a way?
Yeah, kind of. Not so much like a new start, but just an update on where we're at right now as people. As I said, a lot has happened since The Cold Sun, so we've matured a lot musically in that, and we wanted to really show that on this album, and I feel like we did that in a way.
Yeah, I've noticed that every song on this album really played by its own rules. Going from Aggressive Evolution to a song like New Faces in the Dark to a song like Screaming. Was there? It seemed like you guys did not hesitate to try and experiment with as much as possible, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like when because our bassist Faisal, he joined just before we started writing the album, so having somebody else who's also a really he plays a big part. He ended up playing a big part in the creative side of the album. You can really hear his sound shine through, and I feel like if he wouldn't have joined the band at that time, the album wouldn't be the album that it is.
Mm-hmm. One thing I was curious about for you is, do you need to hear music in order to come up with lyrics, or could there ever be a time where a lyrical concept could determine the outcome of the composition?
It depends really. I like to have an instrumental to listen to go off to write lyrics, but sometimes, or most of the time even, I'll just think of a random line in my head, or I'll see something in a movie and it will make me feel a certain type of way, and I'll want to emulate that feeling through words, and then I'll get inspiration through that way. But for the most part, I'll either sit down and listen to an instrumental and just envision what, I don't know, just trying to portray how that makes me feel and stuff in words, and then either that or literally, as I said, just a random line will pop in my head. I'll jot it down. I'll come back to it in a day or two, and then jot some more down, and then just keep vibing off that.
Yeah, this might be kind of a silly question, but you have so many different usages of your voice. When people hear the more aggressive side from you, from a song like Aggressive Evolution to a more melodic song like Two-Way Mirror or Screaming or something like that, is that maybe expressing a different side of you emotionally?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I feel it's kind of crazy because it's the first time obviously my whole life I've been singing, but for the first time ever with this album, I've done it once or twice on the last album, but the first time properly, expressing myself in a different way was so exciting to me. And there's times when we were playing the new songs for the first time live, at the end of the title track, I Let It In and It Took Everything, there's a back and forth between me and Eric, singing. And the first time we played that live was I'd never ever had a feeling like that. It was I can't even put it into words. It was just a different type of connection that I felt with Eric, in that moment,
Yeah. I feel like, a lot of people have been like comparing like it to something like Deftones, but like the aggression that is behind it, like I don't even think they captured that on Adrenaline or Around the Fur or something like that. Like it really has like a lot of contrast throughout this album that I think is what makes it so strong.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Yeah, we do. We like obviously, Deftones is a big inspiration, but like there's a lot more to it than that,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely. Like, it kind of makes me laugh. Like I've seen a reaction video of Aggressive Evolution, and as soon as the riff kicks in, this guy who's watching the video, shout out to the guy, by the way. It's sick that he did the review, a reaction, but he's like, yeah, man, Deftones as soon as it kicks in, and I'm like, bro, that sounds something like that.
Yeah, I know.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I think it's also.
I feel like.
Oh, you're
sorry,
saying?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I feel like it's almost like a bandwagon thing. Like people, like if a few people say it, then people are just like, oh yeah, Deftones for any part. You know what I mean? But it is what it is.
Yeah. Do you think maybe people will have a better background if maybe they were to start off with The Cold Sun before moving on to I Let It In and It Took Everything?
Yeah, definitely. But even saying that, there's been a few people who have said, now I've heard the new album, I understand The Cold Sun even more. So I feel like, as we go on, like people are just gonna get more and more of a better understanding of like how we are and how we work as a band.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I really am curious about, and I know that probably every band hates answering this in every interview, and I do apologize, but and I never ask this either. But like, I'm really interested in the title of the album too, because like, I'm just curious to what the it is that you let in, and what it and everything that it took. I'm like, because it's like not just like an album title, but it's like a statement in a way. So I'm wondering, like, and obviously this could be open to interpretation, but like, could the it that you let in and it took everything, like, is that like representative of a person, or maybe like an inner emotion, or sort of like an inner demon?
Well, obviously, like we always like our like we really like people to just things to be open for interpretation, and like it can mean one thing for another, one thing for someone else. But for me personally, and I think everyone else in the band would pretty much agree, I feel like the it is kind of like the world in a way. Like we've sacrificed a lot, like the past few years for this band. Whether that be friendships, relationships, like not seeing family a lot, and then like even when it comes down to the creative process, we spent a month in a cottage in the middle of Wales, like in the middle of nowhere. Like the nearest shop was a 40-minute walk, and we just stuck ourselves in that like creative process, and just kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like a way of being like, we've sacrificed so much for what we're doing, and like in the end, obviously it's all worth it. Like it sounds very bleak and like depressing as a title, but in a way it kind of proves why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, it's like you submit yourself to almost like something greater, which is art, and therefore it's it's liberating, but it is also very taxing on you, right?
Yeah, absolutely, that's it.
Yeah, but hey, isolation has to be a great fuel for creativity, so maybe it works out for the best.
Most definitely.
Yeah. One thing I was really curious about is, like, because obviously I'm asking this way too far in advance, being that this album is still brand new, but do you think maybe experimenting for this album has even opened more doors for the future of Loathe?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's one thing that, like, really surprised me once we released the album, or even when we released the Two-Way Mirror as a single. Just, like, obviously when you're sitting on music for so long, you have your doubts and stuff, and you go through the motions of like loving it, hating it, like being scared of what people are going to think of it. But like once we released Two-Way Mirror, and then once we released the album, it just made me realize like people are so on board with anything we do and are so open-minded now. Like the sky's the limit. We can do whatever we want, you know what I mean?
So you're gonna start writing country music anytime soon?
Hey, you never know. There could be next album could be a country album.
I could easily see a bluegrass rendition of Two-Way Mirror, or even Screaming.
Yo, that would be so sick. You never know, it might happen.
Yeah, I mean, if a klezmer band can cover Rammstein, I'm sure a country band can cover Loathe.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Now, for people who haven't heard the album yet, and you and I think, already know the answer to this, but for people who haven't heard the album yet, and maybe have just heard Two-Way Mirror or the other singles, it's fair to say that that's not even a clear representation of the entire album, right?
No, not at all. No, it's I kind of, in a way, I like to think of the album as like a really long corridor with a bunch of different rooms, and each room is its own universe. I mean, each room being each song, and like you just immerse yourself in whatever door you open.
Mm-hmm. Would it be better for a listener to listen to this album chronologically? Should they start off with theme and end it with the title track, or do you feel like
most definitely, that's like a really big thing for us, is like track listing and how the album flows, because it's just I don't trust anyone who listens to an album on shuffle. Like that's just not like the way it's supposed to be hit. I mean, at least for us anyway, like we've always like just been a big like advocate of like listening to albums from start to finish, because that's how you get like a proper experience from the album.
Okay. Is that the reason why there's kind of like a bunch of interludes on this album too, such as Theme or Red Room or a sad cartoon or something like that, the reprise, just to kind of force people to listen to it more chronologically?
Yeah, that's it. And it's almost like to see like the instrumentals and stuff is kind of like a breather in between each song to just give you a minute and then into the next kind of universe in a way.
Yeah. I have a couple more questions for you, but I have yet to see Loathe live. I hope you guys come to the U.S. fairly soon.
Oh, wow. Sick. Yeah, no, definitely.
Yep. But for you, is there maybe a similar energy into playing live as you do when you are in songwriting, or is it a completely separate art altogether?
So like, could you say that question again? Sorry.
Oh yeah, no. Like, is there any similarities to playing live as songwriting, or is it two separate arts altogether?
I'd say it's two separate arts myself, just because like it's just a completely different vibe when we're in the studio, and then like, okay, for example, there's sometimes there's parts that hit harder that we don't even realize. There's parts that we write, and then when we play it live, we don't even realize how hard it actually hits until we hear it live, Like, for example, when we wrote Aggressive Evolution, obviously love the song. It was amazing in the studio, big vibe, it was sick. But then the first time we practiced that song, literally everyone was blown away. We were like, yo. Like, so I most definitely feel like, they're two completely different worlds, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you almost kind of like maybe adjust to how you play it live than how you did it in the album, depending on like the room you're in?
Yeah, definitely. Like Sean, our drummer, he changes up like pretty much everything when we play live. Like there's so many songs that like he'll add like a little cool samba beat in the middle of a breakdown, or like just like changing up like little parts that just make it more of like a better live experience. Like we love doing that, and like I love especially like when we see people appreciate that when we're playing live, like see that it's being mixed up and that, and be vibing with it and stuff.
Mm-hmm. You ready for the most difficult question of the interview?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so you have Theme, that's 1.5 minutes long. You have Two-Way Mirror, that's 5 minutes. Gourd, which is 3. How do you know when a song is done?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't really know. Like, I feel like with us especially, we have to almost be told to stop. Otherwise, we'll just overdo things. Like, there's been times in the past when like there's been a song and I've been like, nah, this is too long. We need to like cut it down or whatever. And everyone's just like, no, like let's just flesh it out, see how it goes or whatever. So I don't know, man. It depends really. Like for example, like Screaming. I think I was the only one in the band who had this opinion, but I was like, it needs to finish at the do the end bit where it's like, I will ride to you through the stars, and then after that bit, and I was like, yo, it should fade out after that. But then Eric was like adamant, like, no, we should have the chorus going again. And I was like, it was fully like a back and forth thing, because I was like, nah, the song sounds like it's finished there. But then in the end, I actually kind of agree with him. So I don't know, man. That is a hard question.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad you kept Screaming the Way It Is, because that's my favorite song on the album. So.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. It's one of my favorites too. Like that was one of the last songs to get added onto the album.
Oh,
like
really?
originally, it wasn't actually going to make it onto the album because we were like, I don't know if this is like too different from everything else on the album. But then I remember, I think we were in the car somewhere, like it was me, Eric, and like Connor or something driving, and then Sean, because Sean wrote that, our drummer, he wrote that whole song. He sent us like an updated version of it, and we all listened to it in the car, and we were like, nah, this has to be on the album. Like, it needs to be.
Yeah. This is a stupid analogy, but have you ever seen the movie Perks of Being a Wallflower?
No, I haven't.
Oh, then you wouldn't get the analogy. There's a scene where they drive through like the Lincoln Tunnel and they have to like play a certain song on it because it just fits perfectly, and I feel like Screaming has that sort of effect on it. Listen to that if you're driving through like an underground tunnel or something like that.
Yeah, no, I get that vibe fully. Yeah, I feel you on that.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask one more question, but you guys originated in Liverpool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, I've interviewed so many bands from the UK, probably from that region more than any other band that I've interviewed. And, it seems like with, like, the hardcore scene, which I see a lot of hardcore inspiration in Loathe as well, but, like, with you guys and maybe bands like Employed to Serve or Bury Tomorrow or any other band, is there, like, a scene that you're currently active in your region of the UK, or do you prefer to, like, play outside your hometown a little bit more?
And no, most definitely. There's, like, so many bands that are coming up. Like right now that like I am honored to be like friends with and like involved with. There's I don't know if you ever heard of a band called Static Dress.
I've heard of them, yeah.
Yeah, Static Dress, God Complex, another amazing band.
Yeah, did they collaborate with you on a song, God Complex, on Broken Vision?
Broken Vision Rhythm, the vocalist Harry. He's guest vocals on that song. But like so many other bands. I'm trying to think of others. MTXS, that's another amazing hardcore band. There's just a lot, and I almost feel like especially with our scene in Liverpool or even around surrounding areas and stuff, it's kind of like a new age of metal, like a new breed of metal in a way, and like it's just mad seeing where the scenes come from obviously before I was even in a band and I was just going to shows to where it's now. It's just crazy. Like there's so like anytime you go to a show in Liverpool, it feels like family. Like it feels like I'm supposed to be here, So I'm just very like grateful to be a part of it. And
that's awesome.
To be able to call them people my friends.
That's awesome. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just
no worries, man.
Is there just anything else with Loathe that you would like to promote in terms of shows that aren't at the risk of getting canceled with this whole virus that should not be named, or anything else you'd like to promote?
As of now, nothing. Right now, obviously, everything's very quiet because of the whole virus and stuff. We had a lot of cool plans that have either been cancelled or rescheduled, so it's just one of them. Only thing I can say is just stay safe, stay indoors, and take care of your mental health, man, because that's one thing I know a lot of people are struggling with right now with these times. But
yeah,
just yeah.
Can we be expecting Loathe to come to the U.S. anytime soon?
Oh, all I'm gonna say, I mean, I'm not gonna say no, but I also can't say yes. But there's a very strong possibility.
Awesome. Well, Kadeem, thank you so much. Everybody, we are here with Kadeem of Loathe. I Let It In, and It Took Everything. For God's sakes, pick up the record now out on Sharp Tongue Records, and we'll see you next time on Heavy New York.